I had just moved into a studio apartment on the edge of the city. It was cheap, which should have been my first red flag. The building only had 8 units, and most of the tenants kept to themselves. I worked late shifts, so I was usually getting home around midnight. The first knock happened 3 nights after I moved in. It was 12:37 a.m. 3 slow knock. S, not Lou. D, not aggressive. E, just deliberate. I froze in the kitchen. No one knew I lived there yet. I didn't answer. After about 20 seconds, I heard footsteps walk away down the hallway. I checked through the peephole after a minute. Empty. I brushed it off. Old building. Thin walls. Maybe it wasn't even my door. The next night, same time. 12:30 a.m. 3 knocks again. This time I went straight to the door and looked through the peephole. There was a man standing there. Tall, skinny, late 40s maybe. He wasn't facing the door. He was facing sideways, like he was listening. I didn't open it. I said through the door, "Wrong apartment." He didn't respond, didn't move. After about 10 seconds, he slowly turned his head toward the door, toward the peephole. That's when I stepped back. A few seconds late, I heard him walk away. On the third night, there was no knock. And honestly, I felt relieved until I got home. My door was slightly open, just barely, like it hadn't fully latched. I know I locked it that morning. I checked inside. Nothing looked stolen. Nothing looked touched. But something felt off, like the air was heavier. That night, I didn't sleep. Around 2 a.m., I heard something from inside my apartment. A knock, 3 soft taps, coming from my closet door. I grabbed my phone and backed toward the front door. The closet door handle slowly turned. I didn't wait. I ran out into the hallway and called the police. When officers came and searched the apartment, they found nothing. No forced entry. No one inside. But one officer pointed something out I didn't notice. My closet had a ceiling panel, one of those removable ones. It was slightly out of place. The landlord later confirmed something that made me move out immediately. That panel connected to a maintenance crawl space that ran through every apartment in the building. I still don't know if that man at the door was trying to get in or trying to see if I was already home. I was 14 when this happened. My parents were out of town for the weekend, and my older brother was supposed to be watching me. Instead, he went out with friends and left me alone. Around 9:15 p.m., someone knocked. I wasn't expecting anyone. I looked through the peephole. No one. I opened the door slightly. Nothing outside. Just the porch light and empty street. I shut the door, locked it, went back upstairs. 5 minutes later, another knock, this time louder, more urgent. I didn't go down right away. Then I heard something that made my stomach drop. My mom's voice. "Hey, open the door." I froze. My parents weren't supposed to be back until Sunday. This was Friday. I went to the top of the stairs and listened. Open the door, it's me. It sounded exactly like her. Same tone, same voice, but something felt wrong. She didn't call my name. She always calls my name. I walked halfway down the stairs, my hand on the railing. "Mom," I said. There was a pause. Then, open the door. Flat, no emotion. That's when I backed up. I locked myself in my room and called my brother. No answer. Then I called my dad. He picked up immediately. I asked him where they were. He said they were still hours away. While I was on the phone, I heard the doorknob downstairs slowly turning. Then, bang, a hard hit against the door. Then silence. My dad told me to call the police. I did. I stayed on the line until they arrived. When officers checked outside, they found muddy footprints around the side of the house. And beneath the living room window, they found a small stepladder. Someone had been watching the house, listening, learning voices. To this day, I don't know how close I was to opening that door. I worked the overnight shift at a small gas station just off a quiet highway in a rural area, and most nights are painfully slow, especially between 2 and 4 a.m. when even truckers seem to disappear. So I usually just sit behind the counter scrolling on my phone or watching the security monitor while the fluorescent lights buzz overhead. And on this particular night, it was around 3:10 a.m. when I heard a knock on the glass front door, which immediately stood out to me because the door wasn't even locked. We never lock it during shifts, so there would be no reason for anyone to knock instead of just walking in. And when I looked up, I saw a man standing outside under the dim overhead light, wearing what looked like a dark hoodie with the hood up, despite it not being cold. And he was just standing there facing the door, knocking slowly. Not aggressively or urgently, just a steady knock every few seconds like he knew I was watching him. So I walked over and opened the door slightly and asked if he needed something. But he didn't respond at all. He just stared at me in a way that felt completely off, like he wasn't even focusing on me, but looking through me. And then without saying a word, he slowly lifted his hand and pointed past me into the store, which made me instinctively turn around for a split second to see what he was pointing at. But there was nothing there. Everything was exactly as it should be. Shelves, fridge lights, empty aisles. And when I turned back toward the door, he was gone, not walking away, not in the parking lot, just gone, which didn't make any sense because there's nowhere to hide out there. It's just an open lot with a couple of pumps and a road. So I stepped outside for a second and looked around, but there were no cars, no footsteps, nothing at all. And that's when I started to feel uneasy, so I went back inside and locked the door even though we're not supposed to. And I stayed behind the counter trying to convince myself it was just some weird guy messing with me. But about 15 minutes later, while I was standing near the drink cooler, I suddenly heard another knock, this time much closer, coming from the side window right next to me. And it startled me so badly, I actually jumped back because I hadn't seen anyone approach, and there's gravel outside that always makes noise when someone walks on it. But I didn't hear anything at all. So slowly I turned my head toward the window, and he was just standing there inches away from the glass, smiling at me. The same man, same hoodie, just staring and smiling in a way that didn't feel normal. And before I could even react, he started walking along the side of the building. And as he moved, he knocked on each window one by one, slowly, like he was counting them or checking something. And I could hear each knock getting further away and then coming back around as he circled the building. And at that point, I grabbed the phone and called my manager while keeping my eyes on the windows, explaining that there was someone outside acting strange. And while I was on the phone, I saw him again through the front glass as he completed the circle and returned to the door. But this time he didn't knock. He just stood there looking inside like he was waiting. And I remember feeling this really strong sense that he was trying to figure out if I was alone or if there was anyone else in the store. And that thought made my stomach drop because it didn't feel like a random encounter anymore. It felt planned, so I hung up and called the police. And while I was on the phone with dispatch, he suddenly stepped back from the door and walked off toward the road. And this time I kept watching until he disappeared into the darkness. But again, there were no headlights, no car, nothing to explain how he got there or where he went. And when the police finally arrived about 10 minutes later, they searched the area but didn't find anyone. And when we checked the security cameras, afterwards something about it made everything worse because there was no footage of him walking up to the store at all. The video just shows him already standing at the door, knocking like he appeared out of nowhere. And then later it shows him leaving. But even then there's no sign of where he went. No vehicle, no direction. Just him walking out of frame into darkness. And ever since that night, I don't work shifts alone anymore because I couldn't shake the feeling that if I had unlocked that door fully or stepped outside for longer, something a lot worse would have happened. This happened to me last year, and even now I still think about it more than I probably should because of how simple it started compared to how wrong it felt by the end. I live in a quiet suburban neighborhood where nothing really happens. The kind of place where people leave their cars unlocked and kids ride bikes late into the evening. So when I heard a knock at my door around 11:50 p.m., it immediately caught my attention. Not because it was loud or aggressive, but because it was just a single knock. Not followed by anything else, no second knock, no voice, no movement. Just one clear knock and then silence. And I remember sitting upstairs in my room, waiting for another one that never came, which somehow made it feel more unsettling. So after about 20 seconds, I went downstairs to check, assuming maybe it was a neighbor or someone who knocked and walked away. And when I looked at the peephole, there was no one there. The porch was empty and the street was completely quiet. So I opened the door and stepped outside, looking around expecting to see someone walking away or maybe getting into a car. But there was nothing, no movement, no sound, just that still late night silence. And I was about to go back inside when I noticed that my mailbox was slightly open, which was odd because I hadn't checked it that night. So I walked over and opened it fully and saw a folded piece of paper sitting inside, which immediately made me feel uneasy because it wasn't mail. It looked like it had been placed there intentionally. And when I unfolded it, I saw that it had a short message written in pen that said, "I know you're awake." And I felt this instant wave of panic because whoever left it had just knocked on my door and knew I was inside. So I went back in the house quickly, locked the door and checked every window and room, even though I was pretty sure no one had gotten in. And everything seemed secure, but my heart was racing at that point, and I couldn't shake the feeling that someone was still outside watching. So I turned off most of the lights and stayed near the living room window where I could look out without being easily seen. And after about 5 minutes, I heard something from the back of the house, footsteps, not loud but fast, like someone moving, quickly across the yard, which made me grab my phone and call the police right away. And while I was on the phone, I stayed inside and didn't go anywhere near the back door, just listening and trying to hear if there was any more movement. But after those footsteps, everything went quiet again. And when the police arrived, they checked the front and then went around in the backyard with flashlights. And after a few minutes, one of the officers called me outside to show me something. And in the dirt, right below my bedroom window, there were clear footprints, like someone had been standing there for a while. And next to it, there was another folded piece of paper. And when I opened it, this one said, "You shouldn't have opened the door," which made everything feel 10 times worse because it meant they had been watching not just a house, but my actions specifically. They knew I came outside. They knew I checked the mailbox. And they were close enough the entire time to leave another note without me seeing them. And the police searched the surrounding area, but didn't find anyone. No cars, no suspicious people. Nothing that could explain who it was or why they targeted my house. And for the next few weeks, I barely slept, constantly checking outside at night and jumping at every small noise. I installed cameras, motion lights, even changed my routine so I wouldn't be predictable. But nothing like that ever happened again, which almost makes it worse in a way because there was never any closure. Just that one knock, those two notes, and the feeling that someone had been watching me long enough to know exactly when I was awake and exactly how I would react.